and welcome. And the third, interviews with the leading CEOs of the home improvement companies in the world. My name is John Herbert, and I'm the General Secretary of EDRA, the European DIY Retail Association, and of GIN, the Together, we have 250 countries with over 32,000 stores and member sales in excess of about 320 billion euro. So I think it is very fair to say that we are the voice of the home improvement industry globally. I would like to welcome all our members from all over the world. In America, South America, it's early in the morning, and in Japan and Australia, New Zealand, it's very late at night. So if you are watching us today, welcome. I would also like to welcome the members of our partner association, the HEMA, the Home Improvement Manufacturers Association, as well as the many delegates who've already registered for our next Global DIY Summit in Copenhagen next year. And of course, all our other friends that we've invited to follow this webinar today. We're very fortunate today to have the CEO of Woodie's, which is Ireland's #1 leading home improvement company. And so I would now like to introduce you to Declan, who will say a few words about Woodie's.
Good morning, John. And well, listen, firstly, thanks for the invitation. I mean, we're in a global sense, we're Ireland. We're 5 million people. We're not $100 billion business in Woodie's. We're 250 million. We're 35 stores, we're 1,500 colleagues, but we actually fish in a pond of 5 million people. So 250 million in that context is quite significant. And in Ireland, we're part of the Grafton Group's business. And as you've seen, or you'll see in our little short introduction video, Woodie's is very much a soft retailer. But there's very much a hard side to our business as well. We're also, as Grafton Group, owners of the Chadwicks business in Ireland. And if you want to buy rough timber, or if you want to buy a boiler, or if you want to buy plasterboard, then you buy that in Chadwicks, not in Woodie's. And that business turns over about 500 million euro. So in total in Ireland, we're about 750 million euro. In an island of 5 million people, probably in anybody's market, that's quite a significant business.
Indeed, that's so really, like all the world, we are suffering from a pandemic. So obviously the very first question I'd like to ask you, Declan, is how are you coping? What is the situation in Ireland at the moment with the COVID-19, and how are you dealing with the pandemic?
Short term, I mean, it's a real paradox, John, and I think that's the same for our industry in Ireland, not for Woodie's, and it's probably the same the world over. This is an awful situation. You know, that health part of it is quite tragic, but from a business point of view, the real paradox is that we're going to have a record year in Woodie's. We've had an absolute roller coaster, and when this thing started in March, we all dusted off our crisis management manuals, and we thought we're heading back to. I certainly thought we're heading back to 2008, 2009, in a recession that hit Ireland really, really hard. And that's turned out not to be the case at all. What's turned out to be the case, which I don't think any of us foresaw, was that people at home have placed a value on their homes in a way in which they never have had before. And for us as a soft retailer, and pretty much our business, I like to say we're in the colour business, because we're primarily a paint and a gardening retailer. But even when we sell DIY products, it's probably for somebody hanging a picture on a wall. So everything we do is about the inside of the home, with obviously a bit of paint at the exterior. And people have just kept themselves sane by doing things in their home, and that's benefited our business tremendously. So it's been very positive. I wouldn't have wished this situation on the world.
Yeah, but you say it's going to be a record year this year. But weren't you closed for 7 weeks in Ireland altogether?
Yeah, listen, we're a public company, so it's not a problem for me to share our numbers with you. And at the start, we traded normally for January, and it's pretty normal trading a couple of percent up. And then in the month of March, when the steam started to rise on the whole question of the pandemic, our business started to take off. So we grew our business by 10% in March. but we closed then on the 28th of March, and we were closed for 7 weeks. And that was 7 weeks of a hugely uncertain period. But equally, we could see from sort of our interaction with customers on social media or online that there was significant pent-up demand. So we were closed for 7 weeks. We opened on the 18th of May, and between the 18th of May and the end of May, we grew by 153%, like for like.
Wow.
And in the month of June, we grew by 61%. And in the 4 months subsequent to that, we updated the markets a week or so ago. In the 4 months to the end of October, we grew by a further 41%. And I'm extremely proud of our teams. I remember saying to our operations director, I said, how in God's name did we grow by 61% in the month of June and not fall over? And as he said to me at the time, he said, Declan, there's quite a unique situation here, that we're actually not letting customers in our door. Because of managing social distancing, we were having people queue outside the door. So you could actually run a pretty military operation to get customers in, get them to what they wanted, and get them through the till as quickly as you can. And that situation pretty much persists to this day. So I have no worries whatsoever in terms of the commerciality of our business. I've no worries, if I could say controversially. I think next year, I think this will carry on for the first half of next year. But if I could take some of the lessons from China, maybe it's very, very early to say what the long-term effects of all of this are. Because certainly it became clear to me, probably in June, that I really didn't need to worry about where our business is now. What I need to worry about, and what I worry about more than anything else, is what do the people who work for us and who serve our customers, what will they say about this in 5 years' time? Mm-hmm. I think that's the crucial, and that governs a lot of our thinking. We're very much a colleague. The person who serves the customer is the core to our business, and that's something that's very much on our mind, and making sure that we create and retain a business that has the trust of its colleagues.
Yes, well, of course, you experience the same what's happening all over the world. I know in America it's about 20% increase from the beginning of the year. In Australia it is, and of course in Europe it's also been a boom. And it would appear that within the pandemic, and people have been locked in their homes, that they've rediscovered their homes. You're hearing that all over and over again. And I think there's a certain optimistic attitude that this will continue, as you said, for next year. But I would have thought it would have been very ambitious if you planned the same sales for next year as you are this year. But you think that you're not. Okay.
No, we're not.
I think
but actually,
there's
a really interesting. I'm not sure if you've just shown our Christmas advertisement.
Yes.
If you've shown that, I think one of the things about that ad, and it's something, it's a thought that we've had for the last number of years, and I think it suits us because we're a soft retailer, and this hard part is separately managed by Chadwick's. But we've had the view for a long time in Woodie's that we are in a deeply emotional business. And if you look at that ad there, that ad features a gate hinge. How can you get emotional about a hinge for a gate? Well, we've just shown you how you can, and you can get remarkably emotional. That ad has had about 4 million views on Facebook, which, if you're running a business in Germany or whatever, that may be no big deal. If you're running a business in Ireland, that's a very big deal. We've had feedback from people in Pennsylvania and Australia saying you're making me cry, and all of that kind of good stuff, because it's a very, very emotional ad. And when you think go on ahead, John.
Let me interrupt you, because we did show this video before we started the interview, and to me, it's the very best advert I've ever seen. It really, for Christmas, it was really emotional. It was simple, and it really, as you say, it really got to you. And for anybody watching this interview today, do look at this again. We'll show it again probably after the interview again, because this is an advert. And if you can get the same compassion, the same feeling within the store, then it's going to be a mega hit. It's much better than advertising product, price, or whatever. It really stung. So congratulations on this on this wonderful.
Well, thank you. I've got a good marketing team, John, but I think to me where I'm optimistic, and I can only speak for our own business, where I'm optimistic for our own business, is that clearly this pandemic has struck a chord with people around their families, around their loved ones, around their home as a sanctuary. And I think it's incumbent on us, but equally on our suppliers, to take that insight, which has been a bit revelatory, and run with it for the years to come. I have no doubt at the moment that we're in a bubble, and that will be reflected in the results that we'll announce our year-end results in March of next year, and they'll be fine. And the question becomes how much of all of that we can retain. And I think if we understand the emotions or the way our people, the people who shop with us, how they are feeling, and present, I don't like that word solutions, but you know what I mean, in the right way to customers, then I think we have a chance of making sure that our business just rises to a different level. And I would agree with you. One of the things that we've tried to move away from over the last number of years in this business is this whole idea of just transactional marketing. And obviously that ad with Mrs. Higgins hasn't got a single product in it. We have been quite liberal. Our stores are not particularly big. They're generally 4,000 square meters, but we don't mind empty space, if that either on the ground or up in the air, to create an environment where people feel comfortable, and particularly where women feel comfortable, because this is an emotional business. And it's hard to get emotional about ironmongery, but we just have.
Well, I think it is a good point to be emotional, because we're in a wonderful industry. What can be better than improving people's homes? And talking about the size, I had a call yesterday from Horst Pallmann, who's got one of the biggest home improvement companies in South America. And he told me that his new stores are going to be 3,800 square meters, and your stores are about 4,000.
He needs to come over and have a look at us. We would be no good at 15,000 square meters. We wouldn't have a clue, John. We'd be like fish in the sea. We wouldn't have an idea. But when it comes to 3,000 to 4,000 square meters, we're not bad.
Yeah. Okay. Before we leave the subject of pandemic, I think we're very proud at Edra that we managed to get this clause very early in March, when there's a press release by the Eurocommerce that all the home improvement stores in Europe were essential retailing. And that was vital for it. And I think because of this, it helped certainly many countries that we could remain open, and the home improvement industry and of course the consumer profited by being able to do it. I think also that our stores were exemplary in the standards, the safety standards, the hygiene, how quick and how innovative that people reacted was very good. And a survey came out saying that the home improvement stores have really profited by the home centers' reactions to the pandemic and the way they made the customers feel safe and secure and everything. So that was a good feather in our cap, I think, for the industry.
I think, listen, Declan, congratulations there.
Yeah, thank you. What about, I mean, your associates? Have you? Did you have any problems if people were ill, or did people not want to come into work because they had older relatives at home, or etc.? How did your associates react to this pandemic?
In quite an exemplary way, I would say. But like I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, that we're very associate, or we're very what we call colleagues. We're very colleague centric. And everyone has their marketing program, or everyone has their product program. We've got a people program, and we work really, really hard on employee engagement and on creating what I call a confident organization. And I don't think it's particularly a DIY thing. I think that's a retail thing. That people who serve customers who tend not to be particularly highly paid. But just because somebody isn't particularly highly paid doesn't mean that you can't have them with their shoulders back, their head held high, and feeling pretty good about themselves. So we work quite hard. We work with the Great Place to Work organization to create a confident, high trust organization. And we came into this pandemic with we've literally just completed our engagement survey. We came in with 84% of our people feeling that we are a very, very great place to work. And that was 39% in 2015. And we've done that through sheer hard work, an awful lot of initiatives to make that happen. So one of the things that I'm really proud of is that our government during the lockdown put in place a furlough scheme where you sat at home and you got 85% of your pay. And your employer could decide to top up that 15% or not, whether they wanted to or not. And for the month of April, and nobody was working for the month of April, we decided to top that up to 100%. And then for the month of May, obviously we had no income in April because we weren't open. For the month of May, we kind of thought, maybe we'll just let the government pay 85% and we'll just let things sit, because we didn't know what was going to happen after that. But for the first 2 weeks of May, we needed people to come in and work, to actually prepare. So we put the call out to our colleagues to say, listen, guys, listen, you can sit at home and you can get 85% of your pay, or you can come into work and kind of get 85% of your pay too. And to, not universally, but I'd say 90% of our colleagues went, yeah, not a problem. Yeah, we'll come in, whether we get paid or not, we don't mind. We'll come in. We need to get this business back up on its feet. We need to get rocking and rolling. And I was immensely proud of that. And what because I can't talk enough about high trust and about building confident organizations, but because of that, we have had remarkable flexibility, because this thing has been all over the place. We've been in situations we've never been before. We have recently we've had to close our Christmas business. We're quite a substantial Christmas retailer because we're defined as non-essential. So everything has migrated online or to click and collect. So our click and collect business has gone up by a factor of 15, 16. And our entire organization just simply pivoted towards doing click and collect, because that's what we ask people to do. And you find a lot of organizations, particularly very large ones, just aren't flexible, or just can't move fast. And I have what I describe as the advantage of scale. Because we're small, we can pivot and we can adapt really, really quickly. And we've had over 70s that we haven't allowed come to work. So it's not as if everybody's come to work. We've 17 people in our organization who are over 70, and we told them to stay at home. We've had 1 or 2 people who've been just exceptionally nervous. And if you're exceptionally nervous, then you just give people options. Now, they can take holidays, they can take unpaid leave, they can do a variety of things. But by and large, our colleagues have been 100% behind us, and I've been immensely proud of them.
Yeah, but I would fully agree. I was a CEO of a smaller company. I only had 10 stores. You've got 35 stores, but you can react very quickly and you get to know the customers and your people. So there are certainly very, very big advantages in that. At the Home Depot, when I was there, I was the president of the West Coast for the design center. They had the organigram. We talked about this before we came, and they had the organigram the other way around, and it really worked, and it was very genuine. Because when I started in retailing, the head office, they all knew better, they all were better, and those people working in the stores were not really always respected, and they were not probably as bright or as educated, those people in the offices. And they made you feel that too, going back a long time. But in the Home Depot, they changed that totally. And the people on the shop floor, they were everything. They were given the respect. As you say, this philosophy you've also practiced as well, you told me. Yeah.
Well, listen, John, I was familiar with that before I ever came anywhere near Woodie's. Before I ran Woodie's, I ran the market-leading electrical retailer in Ireland, Curry's. And I remember coming across Craig Manier and basically the organization chart, or the pyramid upside down. And his view of the world, which I would utterly endorse, is that the least important person in the organization is right down at the bottom. That's him. And the most important people are the people right up at the top of the organization, which are the associates, as they would call it, or the colleagues who are serving customers. And regardless, no matter what way you do it, and I think we've gotten over this in Woodie's at this stage, but I very directly say to our own colleagues, is that, listen, I've no problem with the fact that I'm the best paid person in the organization, because I've got skills that are a little bit rarer. But just because I'm paid more than you does not mean I'm better than you, and absolutely not. And it's been through a variety, a little bit of hard work, a little bit of brain power, an awful lot of luck and timing along the way that I've happened to get to where I got. I've had breaks in life, but I think if you sit down and you talk to colleagues in store, and you ask them how their life has been, you understand that one, you could have been in their situation, and they could be in your situation had things worked out in a different way. We have an awful lot of women in our organization, and me and you, John, you're possibly a year or two older than me, but I'm in my late 50s, and I certainly recall when I was 14 or 15, you would find a lot of women in particular would leave secondary education in Ireland, and they did it not because they wanted to, but they did it because they were forced to, and therefore they just didn't have an awful lot of opportunity. And back in good old Catholic Ireland in the 1970s, they tended to get married off quite quickly. And I've come across this whole variety of people who work in our business getting 11, 12, 13 euro an hour. And you just know that there was a vast amount of potential sitting there. And I actually said it on International Women's Day, I think 2 years ago. I said, I want to find a 50-year-old cashier. And I want, and it's probably going to be a woman, I want that woman running a store by the time she's 60. Because by the time she's 60, we're still going to get another 10 years out of her, because people aren't going to retire at 65 anymore. And nobody particularly took me up on the offer. But what was important was that the offer was made. And that you have a recognition that people can, within our organization, doesn't matter what age they are, it doesn't matter whether they're Protestant, Catholic, gay, straight, black, white, it absolutely does not matter. What matters is actually, are they interested in customers and are they interested in colleagues? And if you have that mantra time and time again, and if you pay people 10 euro an hour, but you make them feel like $1 million, then I think you're going to get somewhere. And we spend a lot of money doing things that make people feel that actually we value and respect them.
Yeah, I always was very impressed by Stephen Covey, who wrote it. He was American, typically American book, I think, really. And he was always saying that the people, if you have really motivated and interested people, you can double your staff without employing anybody. And I think that between a motivated and a happy and respected employee and somebody who you don't treat in that way, there is such a huge difference in, I think, in the productivity. But Declan, I was very impressed to hear about your Oscar system. Can you tell me a little bit about your Woodie's Oscars?
Well, listen, I mentioned earlier about the people program, and the Oscars would be part of our people program. So listen, very, very briefly, January in our people program is all about communication. So there's a massive amount of communication, that people know plans for the year. In February, we do, at Valentine's Day, we take out, well, it used to be an ad in the papers, we still do. We take out an ad saying, we love our colleagues, big heart, we love our colleagues. And we say, listen, if you've had a fantastic experience in one of our stores, tell us all about it. And you can win a romantic holiday away or whatever. And that activity is all about getting a flood of positive compliments about our colleagues, hopefully naming them that we can then share with colleagues. And by the way, you want to be pretty good at service if you're going to start inviting the public to tell you all about all the good things that you do. And then in March, there's training days and so on and so on. So every month there's something happening that's about informing or developing or engaging our colleagues. And it all really comes to a head then, John, in September and October. So at the start of the month of September, we launch what we call the Oscars, which is the Woodie's Oscars. You don't need a Nobel Prize to figure out what that is. And what the Oscars are, they're a bit like the movie Oscars. You have 25 awards, and those awards can be sort of technical awards, like, you know, the best warehouse of the year. Our warehouses are quite small. And getting product through them is quite difficult. So you have a warehouse of the year, you'll have the health and safety store of the year, you'll have the learning and development store of the year, and so on. And that will then culminate in the store of the year. That's absolutely the marquee award, the store manager of the year, the assistant manager, and so on. And in the middle of that, then you have colleague nominated awards, the service desk colleague of the year, shop floor colleague of the year, overall colleague of the year. And what happens is you have a 6-week program where the nomination processes start first. And we've got a really good communication. We've sort of got an internal communication thing that everybody has on their mobile phone, that everybody can see this whole process unfolding. So you can imagine that you're, whatever, Nora and Eddie in our Tralee store, and suddenly on our communications, you can, you can see exactly what colleagues are saying about these people. And you have a whole, it's almost like a tsunami of positive recognition that leads to a long list of nominees. So getting on the long list is a big deal. And then a couple of weeks later, you get on a short list. And again, we publish this short list, and it's quite a significant event when these short lists are published. And those shortlisted colleagues are then invited to a gala event in a place called Croke Park. Croke Park is an 80,000 seater stadium, Bankslap in the centre of Dublin. You think about, in whatever country you're in, think about your iconic sports stadium, be it the Olympic Stadium in Rome or Wembley Stadium in London. And that's the place that you go to. We have a gala evening, black tie. Everybody's in black tie and everybody's in evening dress. The whole it costs about €150,000 to put on.
But this, a black tie in Germany, nobody would come, but they're gone. A black tie, they're gone.
But
yes.
The lovely thing about it is, if everybody's in black tie, I'm a CEO in black tie, and you work on the shop floor in Woodie's in Tullamore, you're in black tie too. We're all the same. And then the 25 winners of these awards are announced, and it is a huge event. And to get to be the store of the year is just a gigantic thing. But it's not the people think about the gala event because it's just such we go over the top on it. But it's the 6 weeks of just constant positive reinforcement of great people doing great things for customers. And when you hear that again and again, whether you win an Oscar or not, to be on the long list or to be on the short list is, again, I talk about shoulders back, I talk about confidence, and it works so well for us.
Yeah. Do the staff also talk about their bosses, about appreciation of the work, or I don't know how to explain it, but they assess their bosses as well, that they're treating them well, etc., and informing them, etc. Yeah,
we do. The way in which we do it, I suppose we don't assess. It's almost we don't do sort of assess your boss as such, but we do. We've literally just completed our Great Place to Work survey. So we do an engagement program every year. And we've literally completed that. There's 1,250 people eligible to complete it from our 1,500 employees. You have to be with the business a certain amount of time to do it. And we've a 99% participation rate. And we don't force that. It's just people want to participate because they know we take our engagement score seriously. And I think 2 years ago, in 2018, I took our stores director at the start of the year to one side, and obviously our stores director, his number one target every year is the sales that come through our stores. And I said, that's not your number one target this year. Your number one target is the engagement level of your colleagues. And that is far more important. It is the one KPI I will look at and I will judge you on at the end of the year, because I had a view that our operators were more concerned about selling product than in looking after the people who serve the customers who generate the sales, and that's how seriously we take engagement. And if you're a store manager in our business, you'll obviously be nervous about your sales. You'll obviously be nervous about stock loss. These people care about just spinning all the plates as you do in a retail organization. But the things that our store managers will really care about is when engagement survey time comes, because that's the report card from their colleagues on their performance as a leader, and we take that really seriously.
Okay, well, thank you for that explanation, Declan. Because after we've finished the interview, we're going to show the video you sent me yesterday of the store. So for everybody watching now, you've seen the advert of this excellent advert, Christmas advert, and now you will see the Woodie store once we've completed the interview. But we have a question from Ken Hughes. Ken Hughes was a brilliant speaker at one of our Global DIY Summits, probably the best remarks ever. He's Irish, and he's asking a question. It is, do you expect 2021 to be another record year for DIY based on current sales? Yeah.
It depends on your benchmark. I think I wouldn't have an expectation that we're going to see a repeat in 2021 as we've seen in 2020. But I see 2021 as being well ahead of 2019. So I think for the first half of first half of next year, I think things are going to continue to work well. Where I'd be nervous about would be 2022. So I think actions that we take now, I think we need to be mindful of our cost base in 2022, and we need to be mindful of where the consumer is going to be in 2022. And there is a massive question about the role that online is going to play in that in 2022 and beyond. So we just need to be careful about what we're doing.
Yeah, I would go along with you there. I think 2021 will be better than 2019, but maybe not quite top of what we've had this year, probably. And we got another one from Susanna. Woodie's is a more soft-focused DIY store. In 2020, with COVID-19 and the lockdown, have you seen a shift in the type of customers who are visiting your stores?
No, not particularly. We, I suppose, for the good reason that an awful lot of people visit our stores. I think the awareness of Woodie's as a brand in Ireland is 99%. I stood at a conference there not too long ago with 500 people in it. And I said, has anyone in this audience never been in a Woodie's? And I got one hand that went up, and I think that person was initially. So what we've had is we've had greater frequency. We've had greater frequency, and we've had a significant increase in average spend per visit. The dynamics that are going to change the mix of people coming to shop with us is the dynamics of owning versus renting, which remains a problem in Ireland. But by and large, the dynamics of who's coming in the door hasn't changed substantially.
Okay. Yeah, we've got another question on your associates from David. You run programs to engage your employees. Do you also run such programs for your customers?
Not as much as we should. So we're not we wouldn't be believers in loyalty programs. They're expensive, and equally we need an army of people to try and take that data and work with it. One of the challenges we have in our business over the next number of years is moving those marketing resources we have more to gathering data and understanding data. We've just employed our first data scientist. But that's going to be a slow burn, John. But we have lots and lots of data within our business, and we've been pretty useless at gathering it together and using it in a productive way. So we will be building over the next number of years a far better data capability, so that we can start to understand customers and personalize our business in a better way. But we are not good at this at the moment.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree. When I come to Ireland and I mention Woodie's, everybody knows Woodie's. It's really an institution in Ireland. You know, it's got such a very, very good reputation and over many, many years, and that's very, very good.
There's a couple of Irish retailers who've done this very well. Smith's would be an excellent retailer who've just come into, and this is in the toy business, who've just come into Germany and have made an excellent business for themselves in the UK, and you will have a few iconic Irish retailers who've done a really good job. And as you know, in Woodie's, John, Woodie's has only ever had 2 chief executives. So
yeah, I know. Ray Coleman was
there
many years. Yeah.
And we've been over 30 years in business. And I think there was some superb innovative work done by Ray and done by Michael Chadwick to put Woodie's in place 30 years ago, before there was ever a retail park. In Ireland, they saw a superb opportunity to get in. And once you're in, and once you're an incumbent, as long as your business hopefully is marshalled reasonably well, you won't go too far wrong.
But very nice to see that you built on that anyway. You know, you built on. But we've got another important thing, which again I think is the reputation of Woodie's, because you do a lot for the community. So if you could just give a brief description of what you do for the community, that would be nice.
Yeah, it's part of our overall CSR program, and it's going back to the great place to work that we do. We ask our colleagues, are you proud of what this company does for the community? And this was back in 2015. And I rated it. I actually filled in the survey at the time, and I rated it. First, we don't do anything, and our colleagues said the same thing. We were just a bit focused on ourselves, so we thought, well, what are we actually going to do for a community? And we came up with the concept called Woodie's Heroes. And this was a bit inspired again by going to the United States. And you're in the supermarket in the United States, and they say, well, listen, you want to put $1 in, on top of your bill for veterans or whatever. And we thought, well, you know what, we can do something with that whole idea. So we came up with Woodie's Heroes. Woodie's Heroes is about the heroes in our community, and heroes in our community tend to be not military veterans. There's no army in Ireland, but they're kids. And kids who are disadvantaged, kids who have challenges in their lives. So what we did this year, as an example, we run a 4-week program in June and July, where we basically say to customers at the till, we're collecting for 4 children's charities. Those children's charities are chosen by our colleagues. We give them 12 charities. They pick 4 of them, so they own the whole thing. And for 4 weeks, they basically say to customers, would you like to make a donation? Do you want to put in €1, €2, €5, or so on? And what you'll find in some colleagues in stores, some colleagues are just brilliant at this. And some colleagues just don't want to do any of this, and that's all fine. We let stores do that. So stores do that for 4 weeks. They're obviously a bit competitive with themselves. And at the end of that 4 weeks, you have 2 teams of cyclists. And lo and behold, John, I am a cyclist. I like to cycle. So 2 teams of cyclists cycle 850 kilometers each in 5 days around these 5 stores.
Each 850
kilometers in 5 days. Our longest day is 200 kilometers, and that's a long day.
You too? You've done that too?
I've done that. We have a guy in his late 60s who's one of our suppliers who does it too. So you can do it, John. You can come over and do it next year if you wish. What we do is we do that, and that cycle is very kindly sponsored by our suppliers. It's the only time in the year that I write to suppliers and I say, hello, I'm doing a little cycle. Would you like to sponsor me? So that cycle raises about €125,000 for our charities, and then the activity that we do in the stores for 2 weeks does about almost €300,000. So in 4 weeks we've raised €420,000 for children's charities. At which point our colleagues go, you know something, this company cares a little bit more than making a buck. And if we can do that in 35 stores, my question would be, what can we do globally, or what can we do in Europe, or what can this industry do? And a lot of people get very nervous about the whole idea of asking customers for money. Customers don't mind at all. If you're asking customers to raise money for children's charities, you as sure as night follows day, the vast majority of those customers will either know somebody or have somebody in their family who's had challenges, and people are remarkably generous. So it's been it's huge. We've raised €2 million in 6 years.
Well, that's an amazing achievement. And I also think that people recognize this, they hear about it, and I think it is also very good because it makes people very friendly towards the brand Woodies, and maybe also be a reason why they go and shop there, because they find that they're helping the community or whatever.
I couldn't agree more, John. This is not. I'm not trying to be Mother Teresa, and Woodies isn't trying to be Mother Teresa. This is just good business. That's all this is.
Yeah. Okay. But I knew when I was interviewing an Irishman that we would be running out of time, but we're doing okay, which is very interesting. And thank you.
I've gotten over my shyness problem, John.
Now, Declan, what I'd like to know as well, of course, because you're a small company, what about online sales? Are you online? Are you like most other home improvement companies say, well, we've only just started or so? Or how is it with you?
We've been online for years, John. And online in a way of, hello, here's the website, here's 30,000 products, come buy them, has been up until this year 2% of our business. And with 98% of our business being in stores, clearly the primary focus has been in stores. And if customers wanted to click and collect a product, then fine, they can click. They could click and collect a product. So what we found this year, and it's probably the real jolt that we've had this year. So when we locked down, online just exploded. But we were remarkably naive. So we were 7 weeks locked down. We put our 30,000 products available to customers online. We only pick from one store. It's not even a dark store. It's a kind of a dark part of one of our stores, which is very small. So that whole thing was just overwhelmed in April. And what we've done in the meantime is we've sat back and we've had a good, hard, long think about what we want to do with online and how we want to run it in the future. So online was 2% of our business. We've had some weeks recently where it's been 10% of our business. That is primarily click and collect. And I think it will always be click and collect. We looked at curbside click and collect. The whole world said in April, it's all going to be curbside click and collect from now on.
Everybody's talking about curbside, yeah.
Yeah, so the first thing we did was we agreed with our landlords that we would paint a variety of car parking spaces outside our store. We would have curbside click and collect. You come in, park in that space, ring a telephone number, dedicated line, installed all of that kind of good stuff, and we'll come out and we'll put that in the back of your car. What an amazing service that is. So we put that in place in 35 of our stores. It's been there for a good 10 or 12 weeks now, and nobody is remotely interested in it. So beware of this amazing, all these forecasters who are paid a lot of money but don't live in the real world telling you what's going to happen. Curbside click and collect, that makes sense in the United States, probably makes sense in Australia, because these are very, very mobile places. We're Irish people. We like to come in, we'll come into a car park, we want to come in, we want to say hello to a human being, we want to say how you go, like, we want to hear a story or whatever the case may be. So click and collect will be important. Curbside click and collect, I'm not going to reject it entirely, but it's not one for us. But interestingly, in terms of my budgeting next year, one of the big challenges we face in online is availability. Our availability to run an online business is simply not good enough. And we'll operate at 95%, what I call full range availability. For our 25,000 current products, so that we'll normally stock about 40,000 products in store, 25,000 of them at any one time will be current product. And we operate at about 95% availability for those across our 35 store network. And for an online world, that is simply not good enough. So as part of our budget for next year, we've increased our stock holding quite substantially, and we've got the cash to do that, because we've got to get the business up to 98.5%, 99% availability on our definition of what key lines are. And I don't mean 25,000, but I don't mean 1,000 either. We have to decide that if we're going to be serious about online, we have to be serious about availability. I'm really interested in this whole debate about dark store versus your own store as a fulfillment
center.
And certainly my own view is that I mean, the big kahuna clearly is Amazon, and Amazon's penetration in our sector in Ireland is not particularly large. But I remember Sergio, I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago, saying that in Germany that the biggest power tool provider was Amazon. This is 3 or 4 years ago, and I remember that scared the living daylights out of me. But I've got stores in Ireland's a very geographically spread country, and I've got stores in the middle of nowhere. And if I can get those stores operating with same-day fulfillment, I can't see Amazon competing very effectively with me, not in Ireland. So I'm more inclined to see I'm more inclined to see the store as a fulfillment center. But the big question for us in online is that are we going to force the replacement of people coming to our stores, going to a shelf, picking the product and processing that transaction themselves, with doing a lot of that work for them, and how do we do that profitably? And maybe the question is, if we're going to get really uptight and upset about how we're going to do it profitably, then maybe that entire sale and that entire opportunity is going to pass us by. So we might simply have to suck it up.
Yeah, but I think this pandemic has made all home improvement companies really, all the home improvement companies I know are really investing now in online, but they're still very, very optimistic about the stationary stores being needed in the future. Amazon haven't got these 35 stores, they're fulfillment centers, people can order them, come and collect them. But coming back to your click and collect, I think one of the fascinating things about reselling is that the culture of the people is so different. As you say, in Ireland, they want to mix, they want to say, they want to go in the stores, they want to see people. Whereas in America, they go to the toilet in the car. Yeah, they go everywhere in the car. So the curbside collection, you know, it's there. So
there's one other point I just want to make on Amazon, John, and this eludes me completely. Is that there is, and I think we've all worked so hard on sustainability, and in the world of online, the amount of packaging that world consumes, it just blows me away. And nobody seems, obviously it costs Amazon to package product, obviously it costs them to get people to do all of that, but it's the amount of packaging that generates, and how people can get their head around the generation of that packaging when we're just not in the world of doing that. And I'm not going to start suddenly, you know, putting out ads saying, hello, we're Woodies, we don't package stuff, come and do it. But I've never been able to get my head, I consider myself semi-intelligent, and I've never been able to get my head around that.
Yeah, but on that case, not particularly Amazon, but generally speaking, our Director of European Affairs is really tackling this problem about wanting a level playing field. And this is why I'm so optimistic about the home improvement companies in the future, because you will know if you're going to buy from Woodie's or Obi or wherever you're going to be in the world from a home improvement, you know you're getting quality, safe quality products at a reasonable price. Whereas online, it is not often the same playing field. There are some very good operators like Mano Mano and others, but generally speaking, we are tackling this issue, and I know that Julian, our Director of European, he's like a terrier chasing this to make sure that we all have a level playing field, particularly on quality, safety issues as well.
I think there's other issues as well, John. Is that we let's not underestimate our ability to sell. So I think good advice. If you're painting a wall, you know, if you're going to buy that online, you're probably going to buy the paint, and you're probably going to buy the paintbrush. But actually, if you talk to one of our colleagues in stores and you're going to paint a wall, he's going to tell you what you need to do it properly. And that's a sales opportunity that you don't get. Online doesn't have human beings who can actually sell and advise and get people to increase their average order value. And we do that, and we do that quite well. And that's an advantage if you're sitting there in an online operator thinking, God, how do we sell more? Well, listen, we'll try and entice customers over here to click. Whereas we don't do that. We just say, you need this, you need this, you need this. And off you go. So we have quite significant advantages, notwithstanding the fact that we pay rent.
Yeah, I think one of the good things of this pandemic is that people have really begun to realize just how necessary and how good the home improvement stores are. That you can shop in, you feel safe, and you can buy quality products. So, just on a final note, is anything you personally learned from this pandemic yourself, Declan?
I don't think you can communicate enough, John. And we've kept our colleagues on board, and as I've said, we've literally just completed an engagement survey, and I would be hopeful that the view that our colleagues hold of our business has actually improved, because we have just communicated nonstop. We share quite a lot of confidential information with our colleagues. It never slips out of the organization. If I look back in the year, I'm not going to tell you all the mistakes I've made. God, I've made lots. We banned under 16s coming into our stores at one stage, and we very quickly resiled from that. It kind of went, whoa, that was a bit of a stupid decision. But I think one of the best things we did very early on, and if I presume everybody took out their crisis management manual, but I remember when we took it out in early March, I took it out for the first time. And I remember looking at it, and it said, and you had all these kind of scenarios where you're going to have chemical attacks and all sorts of stuff. And there was no pandemic plan in the crisis management manual. But I remember zooming in on one area that said, get your objectives and get them on paper, and get them on paper quickly, and then stick religiously to those objectives. And we had one overriding and overwhelming objective, which we communicated non-stop from the start of the pandemic. And that objective was, we are going to keep you, colleague, safe, physically and psychologically. And that is our number one objective. And we figured that doing that, if we had a relentless focus on keeping our colleagues safe, then obviously you're going to keep customers safe at that stage. And if you're going to keep customers safe, then you have all the brand and reputational benefits of that are going to endure in time. And I've still come back time and time again. We had 3 other objectives as well, which is keep our business viable, keep everybody paid, and do our bit for the national interest. And we just kept on coming back to them again and again. And if people were coming to me with thoughts and ideas, I said, where does it fit? Where does it fit with those? If it doesn't fit with those 4 things, I'm not really interested. We're just going to have to keep the business just focused on all of that. And that safety consideration, I think, will stand us in good stead if I'm talking to you, please God, in 5 years' time.
Indeed. Well, it's very, very nice to see the progress you've made at Woodie's over the years, and continuing to do so, and the depth of integrity that goes into the business, I think, is particularly remarkable. We have one question from Ronayne. He's from the Dana Verlag here in Germany. How important are engaged colleagues for the online business? That was his question.
Yeah, I mean that's a really interesting challenge. As the online gets bigger, then I think the level of engagement from our in-store colleagues to our online colleagues shouldn't be any different. You know, we've had a surge in online demand over the last 6 weeks. We haven't been allowed to sell our Christmas product. It's been non-essential, so we've had to close that entire area off. We were only allowed to open it yesterday. We had an absolute explosion in online demand. So you can click and collect it, or you can get it home delivered. And as I mentioned earlier, our whole business just pivoted to say, right, we need to do this. We'll go off and do that now. And that's our online team. So our online team delivers on. It delivered because it kind of thought, right, time to roll up the sleeves and get it and get it done. I'm reading subtext into Reiner's question that we should automate all of that. Maybe I shouldn't be reading those subtexts in, but anybody who works for Woodie's, I want them sitting down, and I want them marking a card that says this is a super place to work, and I want to work here forever, and I've got opportunities for myself, and I can have a good life working here. And that doesn't matter whether it's in a store, whether it's online, whether it's in support office, whether it's in logistics. It doesn't matter. The whole organization needs to move together confidently.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Declan, it's been a delight to speak to you. The time has gone so quickly. We hardly get all the questions that we wanted to ask, but certainly I would like to just reflect on our Global DIY Summit that we hold every year. And last year we were in Dublin. It was simply amazing. We went to the Guinness Storehouse, the atmosphere, the whole feeling, the friendliness of the Irish people. Then we had the most spectacular, the best convention center I've ever seen. We had the evening event there with the Irish dancers dancing on the table to. It was just absolutely fascinating. And I know the whole of the world, we had over 1,000 people from 55 countries. They were amazed at the friendliness and the decency and the niceness of the Irish people. So I just wanted to reflect that to you today.
Well, I think we organised the weather for you, John, as well, which was very nice of us. And hopefully everybody learned that the only place in the world to drink true Guinness is in Ireland.
Yeah, I must confess, Guinness tastes only so good when you're in. I don't know what you do to it, but it doesn't taste quite the same.
We're like the French. The French keep the good wine for themselves, and we keep the good Guinness for us.
Yeah. Well, Declan, it's been a delight to talk to you. Thank you for sharing all the information and all your success. As I say, we're going to now show the video of Woodie's once we finish the interview. My next interview partner will be Mike Schneider. the group CEO of Bunnings in Australia, an immensely successful, profitable business, and that's going to be in 2 weeks' time on the 16th of December. So as I say, stay for the video. I would just like to say a thank you also to our general manager of the Global DIY Summit in Aki Malad, whose idea it was to come up with these interviews, and I'm really enjoying. We've got at least another dozen interviews with the CEOs from all around the world. And Declan, as I said today, has been very, very nice speaking to you. I wish you continued success at Woodie's and all the very best for the coming year. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity to tell our story, John. And if anyone's ever in Ireland, by all means, look us up. We'd be delighted to welcome you.
And have a Guinness. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Declan. Very good.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Thank you.